Audra Wilson's latest move on the basketball court has the sports world buzzing, and not in the way she might have hoped. In a showdown that was as thrilling as it was nerve-wracking, Wilson found herself facing off against Caitlin Clark, one of the most electrifying players in the game today. The clash wasn't just a battle of skills. It was a moment where two distinct personalities collided, leading to an unforgettable sequence that left everyone talking. Wilson, known for her boldness and dominant presence, tried a desperate maneuver to gain an edge, but Clark, with her ice-cold composure, was having none of it. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. The scene unfolded like a slow-motion drama, the kind you can't look away from even when you sense disaster coming. Audra Wilson, fully aware of the magnitude of the game and the eyes locked on her every move, decided to pull out a move that can only be described as high-risk, high-reward. Whether it was calculated or an instinctive response to Clark's growing dominance on the court, the play seemed to come out of nowhere. One moment, Wilson was in her zone, holding court like the superstar she is, and the next, she was throwing everything she had at Clark, in what can only be described as a Hail Mary attempt to shake the younger player's focus. Caitlin Clark, however, is not easily rattled. Known for her sharp shooting and ability to play through intense pressure, Clark saw the move coming from a mile away. If Wilson was banking on catching Clark off guard, it became clear almost immediately that this plan was doomed. Clark not only read the play but rejected it with a level of decisiveness that bordered on theatrical. The crowd's collective gasp turned into an eruption of cheers and laughter, not at the sheer audacity of Wilson's move, but at how completely Clark dismantled it. The desperation in Wilson's play wasn't just about the scoreboard. It was about momentum, pride, and the unspoken hierarchy of the sport. Wilson, a seasoned MVP with a reputation as one of the most formidable players in the league, was facing a rising star whose confidence was practically oozing onto the hardwood. Clark's growing reputation as a clutch performer and her ability to dominate in key moments had clearly gotten under Wilson's skin, and this play felt like an attempt to assert dominance in a game that was slipping out of her control. What made the moment even more captivating was the sheer contrast between the two players. Wilson, always animated and fiery, wore her frustration openly. You could see it in her body language, the quick glances at the scoreboard, the muttered words under her breath, and the way she clapped her hands as if to psych herself up for what she knew was a do-or-die moment. Clark, on the other hand, was all calm precision. She didn't need to say a word. Her movements spoke volumes, and the smirk she flashed after rejecting Wilson's play said everything you needed to know about how she was feeling in that moment. For fans watching, it was a mix of comedy and tragedy. Wilson's attempt, while audacious, felt a little out of character. She's not typically one to rely on tricks or gambles. Her game is built on power and skill, and seeing her resort to such measures was like watching a lion try to climb a tree. It just didn't fit. Yet, at the same time, you couldn't help but admire the sheer guts it took to try something so unorthodox. If it had worked, it would have been a highlight reel moment for the ages. Instead, it became the kind of play that gets replayed for entirely different reasons. This moment also underscored a generational shift that's happening in basketball right now. Audra Wilson has long been one of the faces of the game, a player who has dominated headlines and highlight reels for years. But Caitlin Clark represents the next wave, a player whose confidence and skills are redefining what it means to be a star in the sport. Wilson's desperate move felt like a microcosm of this larger dynamic, a symbolic passing of the torch that neither player was fully ready to acknowledge. The aftermath on the court was as tense as you'd expect. Wilson, visibly frustrated, tried to shake it off, but you could tell the moment had rattled her. Clark, ever the competitor, didn't let up. She continued to play with the same relentless energy, capitalizing on the momentum shift that Wilson's failed gamble had created. It was the kind of sequence that shifts the energy of a game entirely, turning the tide in favor of one player while leaving the other scrambling to recover. What makes this story so compelling isn't just the play itself, but what it reveals about both players. Audra Wilson's willingness to take risks, even in the face of potential embarrassment, speaks to her relentless drive to win. She's the kind of player who will do whatever it takes, even if it means stepping out of her comfort zone. Caitlin Clark, meanwhile, showed why she's considered one of the coolest heads in the game today. Her ability to stay composed under pressure and turn the tables on one of the league's most dominant players is a testament to her maturity and mental toughness. As the game wore on, it became clear that this wasn't just a one-off moment. The ripple effects of Wilson's failed attempt and Clark's stone-cold rejection continued to shape the narrative of the match. Wilson, to her credit, didn't back down. She kept pushing, trying to find ways to claw back into the game, but it was obvious that the balance of power had shifted. Clark, emboldened by her victory in that pivotal moment, played with even more confidence, turning what could have been a tense battle into something that felt more like a victory lap. For fans of the sport, this clash between A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark is the kind of drama that keeps basketball alive and exciting. It's not just about the points on the board or the stats in the box score. It's about the stories, the personalities, and the moments that stick with you long after the final buzzer sounds. Wilson's desperate move and Clark's rejection will be replayed and dissected for weeks, not just because of what happened, but because of what it says about where the game is headed. In the end, this moment wasn't just about Wilson or Clark. It was about the evolution of basketball itself, the passing of the torch, the rise of new stars, and the endless cycle of competition that keeps the game fresh and unpredictable. Wilson's move, while unsuccessful, was a reminder of what makes her such a compelling player. She's not afraid to take risks to put herself out there, even if it means failing in spectacular fashion. And Clark, with her poise and precision, showed why she's quickly becoming one of the most talked about players in the sport. This wasn't a game that will be remembered for its final score or even its highlights. It will be remembered for the tension, the drama, and the way two of the game's biggest personalities collided in a moment that felt like it was ripped straight out of a sports movie. Wilson's desperate move and Clark's rejection were just one chapter in a much larger story, one that will undoubtedly continue to unfold in the weeks and months ahead. For now, though, it's a moment that belongs entirely to Caitlin Clark, with A'ja Wilson left to wonder what might have been if things had gone just a little differently. As the game continued, the moment between A'ja Wilson and Caitlin Clark lingered in the air, coloring every play that followed. Wilson, despite her struggles, dug deep, displaying flashes of the brilliance that had cemented her as a league icon. There were moments when she seemed to shake off the shadow of Clark's rejection, pulling out powerful drives and making clutch defensive plays. But no matter what she did, the energy of the arena had shifted. Clark, riding high on the momentum of her earlier triumph, seemed to be everywhere at once, sinking shots from impossible angles and making plays that left the crowd in awe. For Wilson, the game became a battle against more than just Clark. It was a battle against the narrative unfolding around her. She fought not just to win, but to remind everyone watching, and perhaps herself, why she had dominated the sport for so long. Her tenacity was undeniable, her frustration palpable. Clark, meanwhile, played as though she had nothing to lose and everything to gain, embodying the fearlessness of a rising star determined to claim her place. In the end, the moment was a snapshot of two eras colliding, one fiercely hanging on, the other boldly emerging. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.